You know what I love about this week's astrology is that from this Friday onward until February, you don't have to say, I'm so tired anymore. You could say, Mars is so retrograde. Hi, my name is Halley Comet and welcome to your Magic Monday horoscope. Today we're discussing the cosmic happenings from December 2nd until December 8th, 2024, and how these cosmic happenings will happen in your universe, how this week's astrology and every week's astrology will impact your work, your social life, your mood. And here on Magic Monday, it's not just about how the astrology will impact you. It's also how you are going to impact the world utilizing this astrology as a tool around what more challenging, complicated astrological events you may want to steer clear from, and what more opportune energies are aligning for you that you can grab hold of. And when it comes to the astrology that you are stepping into this week, my love, it's a bit of a mixed bag of both. The planets are shifting and changing and rearranging this week. We've got planets stationing direct, we've got planets stationing retrograde, we've got planets entering new signs, we've got lots of planets talking to one another. There is a lot happening this week. And you might be listening to this thinking, Halley Comet, I don't have the energy for a lot to be happening this week. I'm just trying to take it day by day. I'm just trying to get by. And that's also one of the events that is part of this week's astrology. Friday, December 6th, Mars, the planet of action, assertion, and advocacy, stations retrograde. Mars is our fighting spirit. It's our motivation. And when it is moving retrograde, it's not that we have no fight left in us. It's not that we have no motivation. It's not that our energy levels dissipate to zero, but it does ask us to review what we are investing our energy in, as well as what aspects of our life deserve more of our energy. This week's astrology is really a reminder that your energy is your currency. You wake up every day with a fixed amount of energy to expend within the upcoming day. We'll say you wake up every day with $100, right, to spend. And everything that you give your time and energy to, you pay for, right? I pay with my energy when I go to work. I pay with my energy when I go to the gym. I pay with my energy when I say yes to this certain social obligation. We get a set amount of energy every single day. Now, what Mars retrograde is going to make you review is where you've been in deficit, where you've been in energetic debt, overextending yourself, paying money, paying energy that you do not have. Because what Mars retrograde does is it puts us on a little bit of an energetic budget, so to speak. So if we had $100 of our energy to spend every single day from December 6th until February 23rd, while Mars is retrograde, it's like you have $80. You simply have less of your budget. So we got to make some budget cuts in terms of what your energy is going to. And it's important to know that some things that you give your energy to are actually energy givers, right? Energy multipliers, things that make us feel more lit up with Mars and Leo. And there's other elements where it might be the same amount of time, but the energetic cost is twice as much because it took so much out of us. It takes so much to replenish. And so what Mars retrograde is going to make you look at is it's going to make you look at what you are putting your energy towards, where you are taking action, what motivates you, how it is that you are moving your body, how it is that you're going about conflict. Mars is the planet of conflict, so this can be a time in which past beefs come back to the surface, or maybe even just anger that we did not fully process rears its ugly head once more for us to really make peace with. And even though this energy officially begins on Friday, you might have already been feeling this, feeling a little bit more drained, feeling a little bit more depleted, having to pull even deeper from your reserves in order to show up for the various arenas of your life. And you're putting yourself on an energetic budget starting this Friday onward. And if you find, well, Halley Comet, my schedule, my obligations, it does not allow for said energetic budget, it's time to really look at what is an energy drainer, what is an energy giver. How can you reallocate your energy stores in order to exist and operate in a more sustainable state? So that journey initiates this Friday. Do keep in mind, we talked about this in last week's astrology, but we also have Mercury retrograde. And this week we're getting really clear on what Mercury retrograde is bringing to the surface, because ultimately Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius wants us to find perspective. It wants us to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. And sometimes we need to pause, we need to rest, we need to rejuvenate our energy stores in order to do just that. And you should start to see that big picture come into view, or at least valuable insights around that perspective that Mercury retrograde is trying to bring to your awareness this Thursday on the 5th, when we have the Mercury Cazimi. So the Sun and Mercury fuse together, becoming one, and the Sun essentially spotlights Mercury. So a message could come out, whether it's an epiphany, an aha, an illumination, a telling conversation. There can be something that comes to light that makes it clear where big picture shifts may be needed. And this lands in the sign Sagittarius, which is the truth seeker, the truth teller. They are perpetually on this quest to get to the truth. And the thing about the truth is that it will set you free. The Sun and Mercury oppose Jupiter this week, but the truth also will hurt your feelings. Or kind of suck to take in sometimes, because the Sun and Mercury also square Saturn this week. It's not always easy to be honest with ourselves. And I think a lot of us are having to work the muscle around being very brutally honest with ourselves this week. Maybe even brutally honest with others. Like I say with Mercury retrograde, always important to be mindful with your words. They could come back around, right? Especially in Sagittarius. This is straight shooter type energy. And sometimes you have to be a straight shooter with yourself. Right? We've got Neptune stationing direct this week. This is the planet of Delulu. Like sometimes we have to rip ourselves out of our own delusions, or out of our own kind of like rose-colored glasses fantasy. And some of the fantasies and the reveries that you're ripping yourself from may involve your past. You know, Mercury retrograde is an energy that tends to make us more nostalgic. So you could find yourself fantasizing and daydreaming about moving back to the city that you used to live in, and kind of glossing over the details around why it wasn't aligned for you. And that's where we have to work the muscle of the Saturn energy around snapping out of it, right? Snapping back into reality around, no, like it does not make sense for you to move back there. It is not in the budget. It wasn't as great as you're trying to make it seem. Like it's going to be a muscle that you have to work this week to strive to remain honest with yourself and strive to see things clearly. And so we're putting on Saturn glasses this week. Even though the planet of Saturn is about reality, the Saturn lens isn't entirely real in and of itself. Because looking out at the world through the Saturn lens can sometimes make us zero in on the negatives that are alive within our world. It can make us zero in on the current chapter that we are in right now, and feeling like this is all that we are and this is all that we will be, which is an illusion. In and of itself, it's an illusion that'll keep you stuck. If you overindulge on the Saturn lens this week, you can find that you are in a little bit more of a negative headspace, zeroing in on how everything is wrong, how you are wrong, allowing the inconveniences and the hurdles that I'm sure Mercury retrograde is bringing up to feel like the worst thing ever. And life is always going to feel like this, which is not the truth. Like I said, the truth will set you free, while sometimes it'll be a little to hear or to take in or to realize within yourself. Ultimately, it will give you the clearance to evolve and grow in whichever dimension that you are craving. And when we overindulge in the Saturn lens of things, there can be this energy around, well, why try? It can make us quite pessimistic. So there's an ask, all of us here in the cosmic corner of the internet, even though I'm in a different one, we'll talk about that in a moment, for us to really mind this balance around taking in where it is that we are now, even if there are some uncomfortable truths that we're needing to face, but also honoring that we are so much more than what is right now. Like Saturn is the planet of structure and bounds and substance, but there's so much within this experience that is boundless, structureless, soulful. And when you're wearing purely Saturn glasses, it filters all of that out, and it only tunes into what is right in front of me, what is sometimes harsh or negative. There's a lot of other astrology happening this week. We've got Venus trine Uranus, sextile Neptune, then Venus enters Aquarius, conjoins Pluto. There's a lot to discuss. We're gonna need coffee to discuss it. Welcome to my Cosmic Café. Let me know what you are sipping on to start this week of astrology. So I personally am starting my week with a cup of drip coffee and bae, aka Chobani cookie dough creamer, which if you watch Magic Monday, you know that I adore. And if you watch Magic Monday, you also know that this is not my typical backdrop. This is not my typical setup. I'm currently traveling, visiting my parents, and it's so sweet. Right when I got here, I opened the fridge and therein awaited a bottle of Chobani cookie dough creamer. Truly, to be seen is to be loved. So I'm feeling very loved with this cup of coffee with Chobani cookie dough creamer. And you may have recognized the backdrop if you've been watching for a while, as I was here a couple of months ago, cat sitting for our beloved Magic Monday guest co-host Midnight. I do unfortunately have sad news to report on Midnight. Midnight is no longer here with us. Midnight's in kitty heaven, but he lived a very, very long and happy life. We did the math and he was like 80 something in cat years. So he lived a very long and happy life. They rescued him many years ago when someone in the neighborhood just abandoned him because they were moving, but they really made sure that Midnight lived a very pampered existence. And because Midnight was documented on Magic Monday, his legacy will live on here on youtube.com. So this one's for you, Midnight. This one's for you. We miss you. But without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into your vibe check of the week. So vibe check of the week is a segment that we do here on Magic Monday in which we take all of the astrology that we will experience this week, which, spoiler alert, is quite a bit of astrology that we are experiencing this week. But we take all of it and we compare it to a real life scenario so that even if you're not familiar with the intricacies of the Pluto of it all and the Neptune of it all and the Mars of it all, you could tune into an overall vibe to make sense of what may realistically surface within your world. It's not me saying that this exact situation will play out, but if you tune into the overall dynamics, emotions, themes of it all, you may see those come alive within your world, albeit in a different arena and in a different situation. So this week's astrology feels like the following situation. We will say that you are at the airport for a work trip. Your flight is scheduled to depart at 11:40 a.m. and so far the travel day has been pretty seamless. Mercury Retrograde in Sagittarius can bring travel snafus, but luckily you've gotten to the airport with plenty of time to spare. The Uber pickup and drop off went seamlessly. Your suitcase is even under 50 pounds, which for you is a miracle in and of itself. What's not so miraculous is when you go over to the monitor to see which gate your flight is leaving from and you see that your flight scheduled for 11:40 a.m. is now delayed and delayed until 2:10 p.m. Internally, you are screaming because this means you have to do a lot of rearranging. Your day was all planned. You had the car service that was picking you up at a certain time. You have prospective clients that you are taking out to dinner tonight. You may need to now extend your trip in order to take these particular prospective clients out to dinner. Internally, you are screaming. Not just because of the logistics, but also just the annoyances. Because all morning you were rushing around trying to get to the airport on time. And then of course you hurried up to wait, right? And you're also just like, what am I gonna do here? How am I gonna kill time? Like I get so little of my own time and now I just have to sit in this airport. I'm probably gonna get sick. There's so many people all around me. This is the worst. I wanna quit my job. You know, you kind of go on this mental spiral of sorts, which I'll be forthright. A lot of us may be tempted to do this week or may actually do. This week, Mercury square Saturn can make us in a more negative state of mind. And with Mars stationing retrograde, we could want to give up. Like I said, Mars is our fighting spirit, going after what it is that we want, conquering the odds. And there could just be an energy around, is this even worth it? Do I even want this job this much to deal with this delay? Granted, some of these qualms and complaints are completely valid. Things are annoying. Things might even be infuriating. Saturn energy makes things harder. All these retrogrades can lead to delays and things going wrong. It's not to say that there's not valid things to complain about, but there just comes to be a point in time, and there is within the vibe check, where you're looking at the monitor and you're like, all right, well, what am I gonna do? Like, I'm here. I'm not gonna go back to home just to sit there for a couple more hours and come back. I'm here. Might as well make the best of it. I have the company card, whatever. Let's just have myself a little time in the airport. So that's exactly what you do. You purchase a magazine, which you have not done in ages. You read it and you remember, gosh, I used to really love reading magazines. Why don't I do this more often? You decide to clean up your camera roll. So you delete old photos to create more space on your device. And on that kind of makes you go down memory lane a bit, looking at these old photos. You listen to some old playlists on your phone, reminiscing on these old songs that you've lost touch with. And then you decide you're feeling a little antsy, you're feeling a little restless. So you decide to walk around the terminal, hopefully to get some steps in. And as you're walking, you see an airport bar and you're like, you know what? I still have hours to kill. Airport time doesn't exist. Let me go ahead and grab a drink. You know, Neptune stations direct this week. Neptune governs all things that blur the bounds of reality, all things that alter the states of our mind. So you decide to do that via a glass of rosé. And as you're sitting there drinking your glass of rosé, you see someone across the bar who looks pretty familiar. You're like, is that Maggie? Maggie was an old friend of yours from college. You guys were in the same major. You guys even had the same internship together. And you guys still do live in the same city, but you travel so much for work and just life gets so busy that the two of you just have not been able to spend time together. But somehow in this wide, wonderful world, the universe has brought you both together at the airport bar at the same time at the same place. A lot of time has elapsed. So at first it's a little uncomfortable. It's a little awkward trying to find things to talk about or trying to get back into those familiar grooves of camaraderie that the two of you shared. But the two of you do work in the same industry, majored in the same thing, intern in the same thing, working in the same industry. Maggie is also traveling for work. And of course, you guys do the typical professional talk. But after some of the rosé is settling into your system, the two of you begin to discuss some more real stuff. Right? What's beneath the surface? What are we not talking about around how do you really feel about your job? Like, let's not act like this is a networking thing. This is just two friends at the bar who happen to work in the same industry. How are you really feeling about traveling for work? How are you really feeling about your relationships that you're able to sustain for traveling for work? How are you really feeling about your life? The two of you, just by sitting there, begin to cut deeper and talk about some real stuff. And this helps you really reconnect to the friend that Maggie was and how instrumental she was during that time of your life when the two of you are just able to have this honest dialogue away from the prestige and the accomplishments and the metrics and the ROI of the two of your successful careers from the outside. You guys kind of peel that away and talk about the real stuff, what's beneath the surface. And you feel heard and feel seen in a way that you have not felt heard and seen in so long, because this is someone who really gets it, who really gets the nature of this work, who really gets you, who has seen you through different seasons of your life. Someone that you kind of allow yourself to kind of peel below the mask around, hey, it's not just all, whining and dining, these great clients and seeing all these different places. It's also, lonely. I also have confusion. I don't know if this is what I want to do. You really allow yourself to feel heard and seen within this conversation. And because you allow yourself to feel heard and seen by Maggie, you also allow yourself to really see and hear yourself and really contemplate the big picture around, does this lifestyle align for me? Am I happy? Am I fulfilled living this way? Because for so many of us, there is this need that we feel every so often to pretend like it's all good and it's all okay and I'm great and I'm successful. But oftentimes the truth is a little bit more complicated than that. It's a little bit more bittersweet than that. It's not to say that you're necessarily going to quit your job right after you get back from this work trip, but this conversation does make you think. It makes you pause. Like sometimes these delays and these detours are the only way that the universe can make us slow down in order to ponder, to reflect. Like because you live a lifestyle in which you're on to the next flight and next work trip, this delay and this happenstance meeting with an old friend of yours, it makes you pause. It makes you pause the rush of everything that's happening and really reflect, am I happy here? Because so many times we go through the motions because our life just has this momentum that we're trying to keep up with around packing and next flight and client dinner and hotel and this and that. Maybe yours looks different. Maybe it's kid drop off and pick up, but a lot of our lives we're trying to keep up with. It's like being on a treadmill when someone's turning it up and we're just trying to keep up. But we're not able to really find that big picture perspective until we slow down. And sometimes if we don't slow down, the universe will slow us down by literally halting our progress. Maybe that'll show up via a travel delay with Mercury Retrograde in Sagittarius. That also could show up with some sort of injury or some sort of burnout with Mars Retrograde. Again, I'm not putting that out there. Those are just some potential manifestations of Mars Retrograde. Sometimes the universe has to slow us down for us to start to pay attention around the big picture outside of getting to the flight to the next. Do I like this? Do I like me? Am I fulfilled? Am I happy? And this particular meeting makes you reflect on that. And again, a lot of these inconveniences, delays, and detours can be annoying, right? Like that was absolutely live in the vibe check around having a pity party around everything is the worst and this is the worst. But you do see by the time that you finally get on your flight and go off to your work trip and get to hug Maggie and promise to keep in touch for real this time, when you're on the flight and getting ready to land to whatever city you're going to, you really see how that was all aligned. You really see that that inconvenience, that annoyance really was a blessing. And it's so hard to see that at the moment because it's like, I cannot deal with this detour. I cannot deal with this rejection. I cannot deal with this problem. And it's not to say with every frustration and inconvenience this week, you need to be like, well, I'm sure the universe is setting me up for something so much better. Like sometimes we have to feel our feelings about it, which was part of the vibe check and something I would advise this week. week. Feel your feelings about it, but you never know how it is that you're being set up. And regardless, you know, our protagonist in the vibe check could have drop kicked her suitcase across the airport. She could have screamed at the customer service representatives there, but it wouldn't have changed the fact that the flight was delayed. With a lot of this stuff, it's like, what can you do? What can you do? Complaining and kicking and screaming will not change the fact that the flight is delayed, that the problem is there, the inconvenience is there, the rejection is there. It doesn't change it. And so within the vibe check and what I would advise you to do this week, it's just an energy around, yeah, it's annoying. How can I reframe it? Around, hey, I have this time at the airport. Let me utilize it to read a magazine. Let me utilize it to clean up my camera roll. Let me actually utilize it to connect with this dear friend from college who I have not seen in ages. So of course, we will give so much more nuance to this week's vibe check as we take it into our day-by-day analysis. But I do want to let you know that I am located in California. So when I mention a time, it is PST. Pacific Standard Time. So please adjust to your local time zone before making a note of these transits, as they may land at a different time or even on a different day based on where it is that you are experiencing these energies. I also want to let you know I have timestamps available below where you're able to jump to a particular day, jump back to a particular day. And I just want to apologize if you're picking up on any neighborhood noises. Like I said, I'm away from my typical filming set, and there was some men outside fixing a cable wire thing. There's someone mowing his lawn. There's a train nearby. My cosmic corner of the internet is certainly no stranger to background noise as well, but now we get like neighborhood background noise, which is different than city background noise. I also want to highlight, don't worry, we'll talk about all of this astrology in depth, but I am in a bit of a time crunch as I'm trying to get this done before my dad comes back from work. I mean, what kind of house guest am I? I literally have a ring light set up in their living room, so I'm just trying to film while they're not home because I'm kind of annoying. I'm kind of annoying, so I'm going to try to get this done. But without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the astrology for Monday, December 2nd. So happy Monday, December 2nd. First order of business at 6:43 a.m. Venus in Capricorn will trine Uranus in Taurus. Venus in astrology governs all things sweet, lovely, pleasing to the senses. And Uranus gives us novel opportunities in these arenas, spontaneous opportunities in these arenas as well. You may have a social invitation that is not what you were expecting. You could get an invite to a Christmas sweater party. You could say yes to a date with someone that you would not typically say yes to a date with. You could hear from someone from the past, keep in mind Mercury's retrograde, and decide, why not? I'll grab a drink with you or go to happy hour with you. Like, of course, Venus in Capricorn as an energy is a little bit more grounded and practical, but with this trine to Uranus, there's this refreshing energy around, why not? Let me be open to new things. And this was alive within the vibe check around this random social encounter at the bar and saying yes. She waved you over and you said yes and you sat by her. And so just knowing that there can be ways that the universe is waving you over, but you have to pay attention to them. And that's where these kind of negative mental spirals can be detrimental, because if you were to stay at the monitor and just like shake your fist and curse United and the day that United was formed for delaying your flight in such a way, like if you were to stay in that zone and just continue kicking and screaming and ruining the day that United Airlines was established, you would have not had this random, lovely interaction. When we're in our own head and just harping on all the things that are wrong, we're kind of like looking down. Energetically, we're just kind of like swallowed into ourselves. Whereas this is an energy around, roll your shoulders back, look up, keep your head held high. Things are annoying, but it's not the end of the world. And again, this could just be the universe needing to slow you down to finally reconnect you with this friend from college and for you to finally have some reflections. Like, you never know how the universe is trying to set you up, but you have to like see those opportunities. And this could come up with a party that you say yes to, a date that you say yes to, a money-making opportunity that you say yes to. You know, Venus in Capricorn is around what it is that we're building. With the trine to Uranus and Taurus, there either could be novel ways of earning money, of budgeting your money, of investing your money that are important for you to remain open to. And even if it doesn't show up in the traditional Venus ways around love, beauty, money, also just being open to random novel moments of sweetness all around you. Like this can also show up around your typical walking path is shut down for construction, and so you find a new one and you walk by this beautiful garden, and it's like really taking a moment to take in the garden. Like not being so absorbed within our inner mind, which might be hard because Mercury retrograde can make us a little bit more in our own brains. This earthy trine asks us to be very grounded and be very present, even with the hiccups that are certain to occur with Mercury retrograde, right? And with Venus trine Uranus, the universe could be trying to gift you with this lovely garden that you happen to walk by, with this lovely meal that you can make with the ingredients that you have left, with this lovely look that just makes you feel really beautiful and really lovely. Let life surprise you. Let life's sweetness surprise you. And it's also just like basking and indulging in those moments of sweetness. Maybe this like unexpected moment of sweetness comes in around an unexpected compliment, an unexpected moment of satisfaction when you put on your fuzzy blanket and you have your new candle burning. This unexpected funny thing that your cat did. Like novel opportunities for sweetness are all around. It just asks that you pay attention to it and be open to it, is the energy of Uranus. And I'd also say if you are in a relationship or a partnership, this could be an energy around being open to novel ways to connect. Let's go for a new sort of date night. Let's try out this new thing this weekend. Making plans that are outside of the typical. Working that muscle around infusing novelty into your connection. As we wrap up Venus and Capricorn, let its parting words of wisdom be this, in that great relationships are not just born, they are made by the daily decisions that we make every single day to connect, to show up. So maybe this is even an energy around getting your partner a donut before they go off to work, surprising them with some sort of date, working that muscle around inviting in spontaneity and novelty within your relationship and what it is that you are building together. I would also say keep yourself on your toes. You know, Venus and Capricorn may be a little bit more timeless and classic and traditional of an energy aesthetically speaking, but with the trine to Uranus, try something new, switch up your makeup. When's the last time you used that lip liner? Like shake it up, keep it fun. I know a lot of times when things get cold, we can feel like we get the winter uglies. If you're here in the Northern Hemisphere, who else is suffering with the winter uglies? God, it's so hard to feel cute when it's cold outside. But Venus trine Uranus asks you to try. Asks you to try to feel cute, even amidst the winter uglies. So from a lunar perspective on Monday, the moon is in Sagittarius for the first portion of the day. Closing aspect is the square to Neptune at 7:47 a.m. And with this aspect, you know, if I was a betting astrologer, I'm not, but if I were, I would probably bet that Monday's astrology may be a little hard for you to get out of bed. Like Neptune is kind of dreamland, it's kind of like absorbed in our own world, so we can get lost in scrolling, right? Not wanting to get out of bed, get lost in our cup of coffee, get lost in thought, maybe even thinking about a dream that we had prior. We could just feel a little bit more sleepy, a little bit more lazy, not exactly wanting to be in the mood. Like Sagittarius is a sign that wants adventure and big picture, and so we could be resisting whatever mundane tasks our Monday has in store. And even when you manage to get out of bed, you might find it's not the most productive day, at least in the first portion of the day, with the moon being void and all. You can find that you're a little bit in la la land. You're a little bit in your own world. It definitely would not be the time that I would handle the most important detail work that you ever have taken on in your whole life. That does shift when the moon enters Capricorn at 1:09 PST, which brings us back to business around what needs to be done, how it is that we can ground ourselves down into reality. It is worth noting that the moon does not particularly like being in Capricorn. It is in its detriment here. So internally you can feel a little bit more melancholic, a little bit more apathetic. Like that could be alive within your internal world. On Tuesday, December 3rd, the moon continues on in Capricorn all day long. Its only aspect is a sextile to its ruler Saturn, which occurs at 1:17 p.m. PST. So we lost the first part of Monday. Whatever we lost it into, whether we lost it into scrolling, whether we lost it into fantasizing, idealizing, we got lost. We went into the abyss, right? But not to worry, because Tuesday we are out of the abyss and we are firmly rooted into reality. It feels very productive. It feels very efficient. It feels like dialing in the big picture with all of Sagittarius energy, and with Capricorn getting to work on the pieces that get us to the big picture. Because it's worth noting that we are currently in the waxing crescent moon phase after this weekend Sagittarius new moon, which by the way, let me know how that was for you. I'll link last week's Magic Monday day forecasts above as well as below, so you can get caught up on that energy. But waxing crescent moons are the time that we take the visions of new moon, the seeds that we planted, and we begin to water them. Right? We take action towards bringing them to reality, especially with the moon transiting this cardinal earth sign. It's very grounded within reality. We can have all the visions, but they will not come to be until we just do it, until we take action on it. So I would say it is helpful for building some positive momentum within your world, showing up for the tasks and the to-dos. But with Mercury retrograde, I would not stress yourself out around feeling like you need to launch all the things. And also just knowing that Mars stations retrograde in a couple days, I wouldn't beat yourself up. You know, no matter how much you do, there's always going to be more to do. Like, you will never have a day in which everything is done. No matter how much you achieve, there will always be more to achieve. And I don't say that in a way around it's not worth it to show up. Like, it is very much worth it to show up. But in a way around honoring that success is both the mountains that you climb as well as how it is that you feel when you're climbing said mountains. If you delay your happiness until it looks like this, and until I'm here, and until my life is here, happiness is not awaiting at any of those mountaintops, so to speak. And in subtle ways, that was alive within the vibe check around you and Maggie were in school, and then internship, and then work, and then everything feels like it's going so fast, and you keep telling yourself, next year I'll slow down, or after this next promotion I'll slow down. But it takes this moment to contemplate, gosh, I'm constantly living for the next promotion, for the next milestone, and I'm not enjoying myself on that pursuit. It's not to say that every day at work is jumping out of bed and being so excited, but it is knowing that success is not just something that's earned, it's felt. It's intrinsic success matched my extrinsic success. Because no matter how much you do here, it'll feel hollow if it's not matched here. Hi!
Oh, hi. How's it going?
It's going good. How's it going for you? On Wednesday, December 4th, at 2:16 a.m., Mercury in Sagittarius will oppose Jupiter in Gemini. Now, if that sounds familiar to you, if it sounds like it's already happened, if you're having deja vu, it's because yes, it has already happened and it will happen again. This aspect, as well as all of the other Mercury aspects that we will experience this week, will repeat, because they happened the first time in Mercury's pre-retrograde shadow. They're happening now because Mercury's retrograde, so it's hitting all of these planets again, and they will hit once more once Mercury is direct. And the best way to figure out how these transits will manifest within your world specifically, whether this is collectively or personally for you, is to tune in what occurred last time that these planets met up. And that could be within the collective or within your world. The same themes can be repeated as the same aspects repeat, and it can help us tune into the story that's building. So if you're having a Saturn transit, it can help you tune into the Saturn story. Think about the last time that Saturn squared your Venus. This will help you make sense of what may surface when Saturn squares your Venus this time. Now, in terms of our Mercury retrograde story, we're definitely getting clarity on what that is this week with Thursday's Mercury Cazimi. But with today, it asks, what could have been alive within your world November 18th? Maybe you got a hint, a preview of what's resurfacing at this time, or maybe it's just an energetic that you're experiencing. Because overall, with Mercury opposite Jupiter, it could be this energy around feeling mentally all over the place, overthinking quite a bit, perhaps being a little bit too optimistic. If we were to think back to the vibe check, you did not check the flight status of your flight before you left for the airport. You just kind of assumed it'll be on time. And sometimes Mercury opposite Jupiter can make us assume things a little optimistically without taking that beat to double check, to reread, to verify. Take that beat when it comes to Mercury retrograde. And with Mercury opposite Jupiter, it can also influence our thinking around, it'll just take me 15 minutes to get to the train station. It'll just take 2 days to do that project. It can make us a little bit less realistic when it comes to our thinking, which keep in mind, Mercury squares Saturn. So there could be consequences to our overpromising. Underestimating and overpromising is kind of the energy of Mercury opposite Jupiter. You can also feel like mentally you get kind of lost. You know, Mercury retrograde can be a time that we are a little bit more nostalgic and sentimental. That can occur in really beautiful ways. Like in the vibe check, you reconnected with your love for magazines. You reconnected with your love of these past songs. And in the vibe check, that was a completely valid way to kill time, but you can find that you're getting absorbed into these alternate worlds when there's really other matters that you should be addressing. Like you can find that instead of doing work and doing the tasks, you are instead looking at your Instagram archive, looking at overly filtered photos of your Starbucks Frappuccino from 2012. Like, is that a fun trip down memory lane? Absolutely. Is it the most productive way to spending your time? Maybe not. And you could just struggle with focus really during this energy, even getting pulled into other conversations, getting pulled into the group chat, getting pulled into social media. It could be hard to keep your mind narrow and attuned to the matter at hand. Now, the same morning. So while we're here, there, and everywhere mentally, and we are potentially making promises that we cannot possibly fulfill, and we're potentially overestimating the logistics of the matter, while that's all happening, we also have the Sagittarius Sun squaring Saturn in Pisces. This exacts at 8:18 a.m. PST. So you might feel a little blah as you're starting your Wednesday. You know, this can make our confidence take a hit. We could be feeling less sure of ourselves. And even thinking of this combination, you know, Mercury opposite Jupiter with our mind being all over the place, Sun square Saturn, feeling very stuck. It could be the hindrances, the obstacles, the challenges of your world are making you fantasize around wanting to be all of these other places, right? Maybe you're wanting to be on a tropical location, you know, Sagittarius has to do with travel, or maybe you're even fantasizing about running away from it all and selling all of your stuff or things of that nature. You could also get lost in pockets from the past, you know, with Mercury Retrograde, around wanting to rewind time, wanting to go back to something that we knew prior, because the current lessons in life school, to go back to last week, could feel quite hard. You know, with the square to Saturn, life's hard sometimes. And our mind, rather than dealing with it, could want to go here, there, and everywhere in order to check out from it. Because the thing is, it's very humbling to grow. It's very humbling to get better at something. It's very humbling to learn. And the energy of Saturn is humbling, right? If we are the smartest person in class in this lesson in life school, we will not learn. It's great for the ego, right? Because we get A's and we don't have to try, and everybody looks at us around, oh, they're so this and so that. When we're in a classroom in life school, we're in a season of life where we're not so sure of ourselves. We feel a little less confident. We feel like people around us might be better at stuff. That's actually a better room to be in, even though it's harder on the ego because you can't just mail it in, right? You can't just get A+ without trying. It inspires you to arise to more from yourself. Sometimes the stickiest situations, the hardest, most challenging circumstances inspire us to rise above in ways that we may not have prior. If we are being challenged, it means that we are growing. If we feel dumb every so often, it means that we are growing. It means that we are learning and that we are evolving. And so it's always important to check in when you feel like you can do your job in your sleep, or you're not being motivated by your colleagues, or however this is showing up for you. You never really want to be the smartest person in the room, the most intelligent person in the room, the most accomplished person in the room. It's important to be around people who do humble you a bit, because it inspires you to grow to more. Because if you only want to be in places that are comfortable for the ego, where you feel like you are the best and you're the most accomplished and you're the most intelligent, really question yourself. Do you want to learn, or do you want a fan club? Do you want a fan club? Because we learn from individuals who challenge us in a bit. Yes, it's hard for the ego around, oh, I'm not as successful as this person, I'm not as accomplished here. But they inspire us to reach for more, to challenge ourselves for more. And with the square to the sun this morning, there could be certain things that are a bit of a punch to the ego in a certain way, around feeling less sure of yourself, feeling less confident, even feeling like, what the heck am I doing? Like, what am I actually doing? Like feeling quite lost on this journey of life. Again, in these moments, like in the vibe check where we have to slow down, we have this delay, we're at this airport, there's no other option but to kind of like think and reflect and process. It's scary to sometimes challenge the path that we're on, right? Around just going from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, not examining our life. Sometimes when we challenge the path that we're on, it leaves this moment around, well, what the hell am I doing? I feel so lost. I don't know where I'm going. And it's important, you know, with Sun square Saturn and Mercury square Saturn, it's important not to believe the Saturn lenses, which could make you feel like you're a failure, you're good for nothing, you don't know what you're doing, you're lost, you're confused. Again, that's not real as well. But with Sun square Saturn, it's good to question yourself every so often around, am I growing here, or am I just comfortable here? Do I like my job and I feel inspired to do my job, or am I just good at my job? Do I just get outward validation from this? And I think also with the energy of the squares to Saturn hitting these Sagittarius placements, there could also be an ask around really working that muscle of optimism, because so much is here truly in the mindset. We cannot control whether the flight will be on time. We cannot control the external matters of life, but we can control how it is that we frame it. And again, you could have kicked and screamed and just shook your fist at the monitor all day long, but you decided that's not going to change it. Let me make the best of it. Again, reframing is important with these particular placements. Even reframing any feeling that you have currently around, I'm so lost, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing it. Reframing around, I'm excited to find out. I'm excited to have this data under my belt, and I'm excited to remain open for what the universe is setting up for me. And that's alive with Venus sextile Neptune, which lands at 10:52 a.m. Again, Saturn energy can make us very dialed into what's physical, to the limitations that are alive currently, to the finite constraints, things such as time, things such as resources. That can be, to be forthright, a little bit of a bummer. A little bit of a bummer. And we can feel this sense of responsibility around it's all on my shoulders. I feel so lost and it's on my shoulders to figure out what I'm going to do next. And yes, you are an empowered creator within your own reality, but it's also being open to your angels, to your spiritual support team, to the universe to guide you and to support your journey. You are not alone. And even if you're someone where that doesn't particularly resonate with you in terms of a belief system, that's completely okay. But I would argue, even if you don't think that is true, that everything is happening for you, that everything is aligning for your own behalf, it is a more helpful framework for viewing this world. Because regardless, the flight is delayed. You could either be like, this was a random happening, a random occurrence, life is random, it's just meaningless things happen every single day. Or you can think of it around, the flight's delayed, there must be some reason why. Which one is going to help you stay in a little bit more of a positive headspace? Likely the latter. Because the first, if you just think it's meaningless, it really supports this negative framework around this would happen to me, everything's the worst. Whereas when you contemplate, there must be a reason. Even if you do not feel like that's true, when you step into that mind state around there must be a reason, it makes you more open around, let me find what that reason is. You start looking for opportunities around, should I read this magazine with this time? Should I do something productive? Should I clean up my photos? You know, Neptune governs screens, mirrors, cameras. So should I clean up photos from the past? Should I grab a drink at this airport bar? Again, that happenstance, synchronistic meeting. And the insights that it prompted was the reason that your flight was delayed. And you likely wouldn't have found that or been open to it unless you were like, all right, universe, show me what you got. If this inconvenience was meant to be, show me why. And even if you don't believe it, playing with that mentality helps you be more open. It also helps you take some of the responsibility off. You know, Venus is in its final degrees of Capricorn. We've got all this squares to Saturn. Life is hard. There's a lot of responsibilities on your plate. There's bills to pay. There's pets to take care of. There's children to take care of. There's deadlines to meet. There's a lot of stuff that is on your shoulders. And it's nice to experience the energy around offloading burdens that are not necessarily yours to carry. And what I mean by that is praying about things and trusting that they are taken care of, or praying for guidance on next steps and trusting that it'll come into alignment, praying for things to be sent that are in alignment with your highest and best good, and having faith that they will arrive. Because even with the Saturn energy alive this week, which can make things hard, we could feel more limited, we could feel more challenged, our ego can feel bruised. Even with all of that that's currently alive this week, there are some genuine, subtle, but genuine shimmers and glimmers of serendipity, of serenity, of spontaneity with Venus trine Uranus and sextile Neptune today. It's subtle, especially today's sextile is an opportunity aspect. It is not a given, but there is an opportunity to be open to these moments of magic is the energy of Neptune. And it could particularly impact the Venusian realms of your life, moments of magic within your connection around going through it, but feeling that warmth when you are venting to your partner about it and having gratitude around, I'm going through it, but at least I'm going through it with you, right? Or going through it because you got this bill of something that was unexpected, but opening your mail and finding that you got this unexpected check in the mail that will help cover that. This could also be working the muscle around seeing the beauty in life, consciously being open to music, maybe old playlists, okay? With Mercury Retrograde, right? Being more nostalgic, or movies that you love, things that bring you back to the aspects of life that our Saturn glasses cannot see. right? Because Saturn's so fixated on what's real and what's grounded, and it's important to indulge, not too much, but indulge a bit of Neptune around what's magical and what's mystical. And to also know with this combination that if we were not challenged in the current grade of life school that we're in, if our ego was not bruised, if we were not going through it in some arena, we likely wouldn't reach out to God or the angels. We likely wouldn't reach out to God or the universe or spirit altogether. And with the combination of this happening shortly after Sun square Saturn, it just feels like that whisper from the universe around we've got you when you're going through something really challenging. When you got some devastating news, but you ask the universe, show me a white dove, if everything's gonna be okay, and you see a white dove in 2 hours time. Or if you get a text message of something that's gonna change your life, but you see that it was sent at your angel number, and you feel supported even amidst it. Sometimes it's so nice to have those shimmers and glimmers that just remind you that you are not alone, that help alleviate some of the burdens that we are carrying with Venus in Capricorn. So looking out for how spirit is trying to get in touch with you, and looking out for those magic moments, those mystical moments, those beautiful moments with the energy of Neptune. So our lunar story on Wednesday, shortly after midnight, the Capricorn moon squares Chiron in Aries, which can just kind of bring up pains around feeling like we are not enough, we are not good enough, we are not doing enough, we're not accomplished enough, we are not productive enough. Again, Mars stations retrograde in a couple of days. Expect less from yourself, and I don't mean that in a disempowering way. I just mean have your tasks, have your priorities, and really strive to do those to the best of your ability, and really work the muscle around celebrating and cheerleading yourself if you get those done. Like some of us have been operating in ways that are fundamentally unsustainable and internalizing if you don't meet these impossible standards. And Mars retrograde is going to bring that to your awareness. The Capricorn moon then goes on to trine Uranus mid-morning. So again, we have that Sun square Saturn, so you could be feeling like you're hitting a wall, things are hard, but there could be creative solution in the mix with the Capricorn moon trine Uranus. The moon aligns with Venus at 3:34 p.m. and it'll be void until around 8:21 p.m. So just know you won't be too terribly productive after 3:30, so maybe call it a day. Maybe go outside, be around beauty with moon on Venus, spend some time with those that you love, be open to random social interactions, whether it's with someone you know or someone new. You know, Venus trine Uranus is still separating in the cosmos. The moon will enter Aquarius at 8:21 p.m., which draws our awareness to our groups, our communities, our eccentricities, our quirks. I will say emotionally, Wednesday night might be a little intense as the moon aligns with Pluto, which could just intensify our emotions. You could be overthinking them a lot, or even feel like they're so intense that you want to detach from them in some regard. There could be fears coming to the surface, paranoias coming to the surface. So on Thursday, December 5th, at 6:18 p.m. PST, we have the Mercury Cazimi. And Cazimi is a word that means in the heart of the sun, and it's when the sun and Mercury align to fuse and become one. And this does mark the halfway point of the retrograde. Mercury does station direct next week, and it does mark a moment of illumination within the Mercury retrograde story, which hopefully is bringing to your awareness what Mercury retrograde is seeking to show you and to reveal to you. Because again, these inconveniences, these work mistakes, these errors, they can feel annoying and they can feel meaningless, and you can certainly take that stance and take that approach if you'd like. But there can be significant data that it's trying to reveal. Like you might think, oh, I just made a work mistake because I'm dumb. Like being hard on yourself with all these squares to Saturn, right? And that's not what it's showing you. What it's trying to show you is that you have too much on your plate, that you're too scattered. Your attention is frayed between too many different things. Or maybe it's revealing that you need more eyes on your project to double check to see if there's any errors. It's only truly a mistake if we don't learn from it. Every mistake grants you an opportunity to learn. We learn more from our mistakes than we do our successes. If you're failing, you are learning. And trust me, I have some work mistakes that keep me up at night. Even still, a lot of times, like work mistakes, wherever the mistakes are coming up, you can beat yourself up from it around, I cannot believe it happened. But again, it happened. And we can look at the monitor and scream. We can look at the email that went out with the wrong link and scream. We can scream and cry and shake our fists, but it happened. So how are you going to move forward? Are you going to put the guidelines in place to avoid it happening again? Are you going to reflect on why this occurred? Am I over capacity? Am I stressed out? Are you going to reflect on, did I make this mistake because I'm not in it any longer? What's the data? If you just take the mistake and make it about you, again, this Mercury Cazimi square Saturn, if you're just like, well, I'm just dumb and I'm just not good enough, you're losing out on the opportunity to learn, remain teachable, remain open. What can you learn from this? And I would also say with Mercury retrograde, like I said, a lot of us are just seeking and gaining perspective. We're taking a big picture look at our life. And sometimes reconnecting with an old friend, like in the vibe check, kind of forces us to do that, where we're like, hang on, am I happy? Am I fulfilled? When I'm so in the trees of it all, I don't see the forest. When I'm so in the to-dos of it all, I don't see that this is my life. These are my days. This is my time. Do I like it? And the Mercury Cazimi could help you see something clearly, see a truth clearly. Maybe there's something that someone tells you with this Mercury Cazimi, but Mercury is retrograde, so it also could just be a truth that comes from within. And like I said, with Saturn energy, it might not be the most pleasant to acknowledge. Again, sometimes when we acknowledge, I'm not feeling particularly fulfilled, this particular arena of my life, this lifestyle no longer works for me, there can be this moment of fear around what the hell am I doing now? There could be a lot of questions around what do I want to do? It's not always easy to look clearly at something, but the truth will set you free. And the Mercury Cazimi is bringing some truth to your awareness. And it's not always pleasant to acknowledge around, I'm not feeling fulfilled in this way, or I'm not feeling satisfied in this way, or I'm not growing in this way, like really looking at that. It's not always pleasant because once we look at that, it asks then, okay, well, what are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about that? And I wouldn't stress yourself out around feel like you need to figure it all out right now, that after this work trip, you need to quit your job and switch careers. It's just looking at that and honoring that data around now that I've slowed down, I see this clearly, and now I have this data so that when the universe is giving me different opportunities and different invitations, I'm open for things that are in alignment because I see clearly that this may not be. Contrast can bring you a lot of clarity. A lot of times we figure out what it is that we do want when we figure out what it is that we do not want. And I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. It's not that we're all having these epiphanies this week. Something is wrong with our life. And I wouldn't even say within the vibe check that anything's wrong. It's just honoring this season of my life feels like it's coming to a close. And I could deny the truth of what's coming to the surface. I can keep myself busy to try to run away from it, but I can't run away from that any longer. I need to face that because that helps me look out for opportunities around what the next season of my life will be, because this is really preparing me for the next stage of my life. You could feel like these detours are a waste of time, but you never know how you're being prepared, how this particular season of your life is building to the next one. But it takes kind of getting real with yourself around what do I really like about where it is that I am, and where am I craving more satisfaction? Where am I craving more fulfillment? Where am I craving to grow in new ways? And so you may be asked to take a step back, to gain perspective on the big picture of it all. Maybe for some of you, it's not so much what's not aligning. Maybe it's what is. Reconnecting, rereading the magazines and realizing, I need to reconnect with this part of myself. This feels really good. This feels really good to read magazines. I love this. Or this is an arena of my life that I'm craving more freedom, that I'm craving more truthfulness with myself and with others. And so the moon continues in Aquarius all day long. It does oppose Mars and Leo early in the morning around 7:28 a.m. So you could be feeling drained, or you could be feeling a little bit more defeated. Keep in mind with the energy of Mars retrograde, we can be feeling a little bit more disheartened, a little bit more defeated, but keep in mind, it's only a loss if you do not learn. It's only a loss if you give up and if you do not learn. Every situation where you learn something is a win. It is a victory. But with the energy of moon opposite Mars, you could be feeling a little bit more frustrated. There could be things that are getting under your skin. By the evening time with the Aquarius moon then sextiling that Mercury Cazimi, there could be an energy around from the big picture, because again, Sagittarius is very big picture. Aquarius is very much seeing things from above. Really taking that step back around, okay, what did I learn from this? This might have been a challenging situation that I had to endure, but what did I learn from it? What was the perspective that it gave me? Again, a lot of us could be kind of caught up in things that happened in the past because Mercury is retrograde right now. And it's not bad to reflect to ensure that you really integrated all of the wisdom from those experiences, but it's also important not to dwell there. And if it helps, see yourself, visualize yourself on the other side of the situation. See and connect with your higher self who has already gotten through what feels hard right now. See and connect to that person. It will help you move through it. Know that that person exists who's on the other side of whatever it is that you are enduring currently. There is a version of you who has gotten to the other side of it. Connect with that version of you. Even if you're in the midst of it, it helps you be more optimistic when you connect to the version of you who got to the other side of it. It helps the two of you fuse and become one. It helps you meet that person a little bit sooner, because a lot of times when we're going through it, it can feel insurmountable. And that's where Saturn energy is an illusion, because it could just feel like it's always going to feel like this, and it's not. There is a version of you who has gotten to the other side, who has a story to tell because of all the wisdom that you have learned from this particular experience. Connect to that person. Let them walk you through this. On Friday, December 6th, at 3:33 p.m. PST, Mars stations retrograde in Leo. I want to let you know that I have done an all signs deep dive into this energy, where it's impacting your chart, where it's enlivening your chart. You can check that out within the description as well as above. I go so much deeper on all of the intricacies of the next couple of months that we are stepping into. But what you need to know here is that with Mars retrograde, it is a review. All retrogrades are really reviews. It's not just the universe being mean to us, it just kind of pauses us for us to review. And with Mars, it makes us review where we've been investing our energy into, how it is that we've been dealing with conflict, and how it is that we've been moving our body. This all comes up for review. And Mars will move retrograde through the signs Leo and Cancer, which are the only two signs within the zodiac that are ruled by luminaries, light givers. And luminaries shine. That's what they do. That's who they are. Leo is governed by the sun. Cancer is governed by the moon. Sun is a star, has its own light source. The moon reflects the light of the sun. They give light. And so with Mars being our energy levels, and now it's retrograde, there is a review around what we are shining a light to within our life, and what shadowy arenas of our life we may want to pour more light into. Perhaps with Mars moving retrograde in Leo, this would be your creative projects, like your easel that is gathering dust in the corner, your guitar that deeply wants you to play it, those things that give you energy rather than take it from you. Like Mars retrograde, with being in time of the past, could be contemplating, what are things that I like to do that charge me up, that make me feel good? And I feel like particularly with Mercury square Saturn happening later today, there is this ask for discipline when it comes to our mind, and maybe even when it comes to our energy with Mars retrograde, around being disciplined, around doing the things that do light us up, even if we have the winter uglies, even if we feel like we're flopping in the wintertime because it's so cold. Having that discipline around intentionally infusing joy into our life and prioritizing joy. I want to feel good. I choose to feel good. So I prioritize feeling good. And that's where the mental discipline comes in. You know, I'll be forthright. Mercury square Saturn, you may feel to be in a negative headspace. You feel drained. You feel depleted. Your energy tells you something. Again, maybe you're exhausted because you're doing too much. You have too much on your plate, but maybe you're doing too little of the things that give you light. As you give everyone else and everything else your light, what gives you light? And with Mars retrograde, how can you take personal responsibility around igniting that within yourself, prioritizing that, taking the dance classes, playing the guitar, doing whatever gives you that confidence, that creative spark? Because our overall fighting spirit, our overall motivation can feel at a minimum over the next couple of months. And so it's important, as you have less dollars to spend every day in our energetic currency, that you are budgeting accordingly around, this is the amount that's going to this, and I deserve 20 of those dollars. So often the things that give us joy, the things that prioritize ourselves, are what typically gets the boot during times like this, when we are in energetic inflation, right? Like it costs more because there's less. Usually we're the ones who get the boot around, I love taking baths, but I should probably be doing all of these other things. And so Mars retrograde may ask you to get creative around where it is that you're reallocating, but also with Mercury square Saturn happening today, being firm around, no, I can't do that. No, I won't be there. No, that's not a realistic deadline. No, I can't stay late. Mercury square Saturn can be around enforcing that. And with Mars retrograde, just honoring, like, I need some of those dollars. And intentionally budgeting some of your energy towards the activities that bring you back to that place of presence and play. That's the energy of Leo. You know, it's inner child energy. Just think about playing with a child. You know, I'm here for my nephew's birthday. He just turned 4. And when you're playing with them, again, that can be tiring in its own way. But it's so rarely around actually getting to the park and doing the thing, and then we got to do this. It's around the adventures that we go on during our walk to the park, and the sights that we see, and the rocks that we find. Like, it is around these parts of the experience and the play of the experience rather than being so focused on the end result or on all of the things that we have to do. And with Mars retrograde, it might make us slow down in order to find those moments of play or enjoyment within our day-to-day. But again, the universe slows us down in sometimes very frustrating ways, which you could feel definitely on Friday because Mercury squares Saturn that evening. So we could be feeling frustrated, like, are you kidding me? We could be feeling stressed. We could be feeling anxious. But like I said, there is a cosmic opportunity aligning around where we have mental and verbal discipline. Like with Mercury square Saturn, this could be an energy around, no, I cannot do that. But also being disciplined with yourself around when you're trying to talk yourself into, oh, you should just stay in bed before work rather than get up to practice your piano scales. It's thinking, no, I deserve some of my energetic budget. I'm sick of being out of energetic dollars to give to myself and the things that light me up. I deserve it. I'm the one who's budgeting things. Like sometimes it takes being disciplined with yourself and being disciplined with your joy, which I know feels like an oxymoron, but nobody is going to come and save you. Like nobody is going to make you do the things that you like to do. No one is going to decide that you deserve to feel good. Nobody is going to make you prioritize the things that you like to do, but for some reason never prioritize. It's like no one's going to do that. And that's the gift of Saturn, is seeing these things clearly around where have I been procrastinating? Where have I been making excuses? As well as when it comes to our mental landscape, like I said, square to Saturn, we could feel like everything's the worst, it's the worst. With Mercury retrograde, we could be thinking about the past, and with the square to Saturn in Pisces, we could be hurting our own feelings by thinking about the past. And it's important to step into that place of empowerment. If there is a certain problem that you're beating yourself up about, I want you to see it within your mind's eye and shrink it. Make it get smaller and smaller and smaller, and then flick it away. Flick it away. Sometimes those little mental visualization exercises can really help you around, this is not productive. This is just hurting my feelings. This is just keeping me stuck. That's what Saturn energy can do. Keeping me stuck in regret and shame and what if this could happen? What if this could happen? This is not productive. I don't have energy for this. With Mars also stationing retrograde, let me flick this away. And let me remember that I am the empowered creator of my reality. These are my thoughts in my cute little brain. I know that sometimes it feels like it gets away from me, and these pity parties and these negative spirals feel like they're out of my control, but how is it that I can bring it back into my control? And remember, this is my brain, this is my skull, this is my head, and this is not a world that I want to get lost in. With Mercury and Sagittarius, this is not something that I want to have real estate within my brain. Like I have so many cells that are working so hard to support me right now. I have so much blood that's pumping, flowing through my brains to support thoughts like these. Thoughts around how I'm a loser and how I messed up, or how this in my life isn't good enough, or I won't be good enough until A, B, and C happens. There's way too much working for my thriving for me to sustain thoughts such as these. And you could think of it to a body level, all of your body parts that are working to keep you alive and make sure that you are thriving. Also from a spiritual perspective around your ancestors, your guides, your angels are all here. And these are the thoughts that you're allowing within your brain. You're telling yourself that you are a loser when you have all of these thoughts within you working so hard to keep you alive. That's a loser? When you have all of these angels around you cheerleading your own spiritual evolution, that's a loser? So just having discipline around either how you're being mean to yourself or even how you're going down paths of what ifs and regrets that are not productive, that are not helpful. And I would advise, if this does come up, write it down or talk it out, because sometimes within our mind we can get into these spirals, but when it comes out of our mouth we realize how ridiculous it is. It sounds different when it comes out of your mouth. Like you begin to contemplate, no, that's ridiculous, you didn't make that mistake, or I am a loser because of A, B, and C. It comes out of your mouth and you're like, wait, no, I'm actually not. Like sometimes it just gets different when it's out in the world and out of our thoughts, and helps you recognize this is the narrative that all of my body is working to support and all of my angels are around me to support. Like this is the narrative that I want to breathe life into. Shrink it, flick it. The other major shift on Friday is that at 10:13 p.m., Venus, the planet of love, beauty, money, will enter Aquarius. And with this transit, there is a desire for our squad. Like truly, the energy of Aquarius is around groups and friendships and communities. And just people who feel like-minded. Because again, maybe that's friends that you spend time with all the time. Maybe that's reconnecting with someone from your past, where it's like our lives in some ways went in different directions, but there is something where I'm able to talk to you. Like I feel like I get you in a world where I'm so rarely gotten. Like that is the nudge of Aquarius, is that we can oftentimes feel like an alien in this experience, like a weirdo, like an outsider, like nobody gets us. And it's refreshing. It's truly medicine balm for the soul when we find those humans in which we're on the same wavelength. And maybe we're blessed enough to call those our friends. Maybe we get to see those people all of the time. But those sort of connections show up in many different ways. That could show up in mutuals, where you guys just follow each other online and support each other's journey from afar. And you get the memes that they share, and they get the memes that you share. There's just that camaraderie there. Maybe that's podcasts that you listen to, or fandoms of things that you stan and love. Again, connection shows up in many different ways. And of course, with the energy of Aquarius, sometimes very bizarre ways, sometimes very eccentric ways. And being open to connections that can find you in bizarre, eccentric ways. And being open to those connections in which it's like, okay, we're very different, but there's elements in which I get you and you get me. And we're able to be weird and be quirky and be bizarre together. And so there can be a desire to really treasure and prioritize those connections that make you feel that. You could also find, when it comes to love and relationships, there really is a craving of connections that are built on a strong foundation of friendship. You can find that throughout this transit, there's a bit of an oscillation around, wanting connection with others, but also wanting to do your own thing. That could be alive. You could find that you could be spending money on some more bizarre or eccentric things. You could find that your style gets a little bit more bizarre and eccentric. And Friday, from a lunar perspective, the moon is in Aquarius all day long. It trines Jupiter around 2 a.m., which can bring good feelings, connected feelings, a desire to want to socialize. I would say be mindful of the excess energy that the trine to Jupiter can give, just because it's also happening at a time that Venus is at the anaretic degree. So because Venus enters Aquarius this evening, Venus is at 29 degrees throughout the majority of Friday, which sometimes can make us more likely to overdo it, overorder if we're out to eat, feel a sensation of urgency that we need to buy this thing right now or else the sale is going to leave, feeling like we need to tell our crush exactly how we feel right now. There could just feel to be this now or never energy alive with Venus at the anaretic degree. The Aquarius moon will sextile Chiron in Aries. It's a soft, subtle flow of energy, but it is kind of that vibe echoed by Venus entering Aquarius later that day around the people, places, and things that just get it after years of not being understood. Because that's Chiron. It's where it is that we feel inadequate. It's where it is that we feel insecure. And the energy of Aquarius is where it is that we felt weird, where we've even had to hide our weird in order to fit in order to be like everybody else within your industry. But it's like feeling that healing energy where it's like, oh, I can actually talk to you like you're a person. I don't have to be in my professional bag and act like I've got it all together and I know exactly it. Like you're an old friend. We're able to be real in reference to the vibe check. But this might show up for you in a different way around just being able to listen to a YouTube video that makes you feel more understood. Or just having a very earnest conversation with your barista that reminds you how kind and compassionate people can be after so many years of feeling like people are so mean and so harsh. It's subtle with the sextile to Chiron, but it's alive. And those moments around feeling understood, even in our weirdness or the ways that we don't fit in, can be quite healing. I would not say that Friday is the most productive day. What with Mars stationing retrograde, we've also got the Aquarius moon squaring Uranus, technical difficulties, changes of plans. You also just could be feeling a little bit restless, having a hard time focusing, especially when the moon is void at 4:01 p.m. So the closing aspect is that square to Uranus. So I would not expect you to be too terribly productive throughout the rest of the day. On Saturday, December 7th, I want to let you know firstly that Venus in Aquarius is greeted into its ingress by a conjunction to Pluto that exacts around 6 a.m. Now, you may have felt this build last night, so if you felt any sensations of paranoia or fear or intensity brewing, it was likely the buildup of this very conjunction. But you could start your day with a decent amount of anxiety, overthinking. This happens in an air sign. And part of that can be because of your relationships in some regard. There can be an energy around feeling quite anxious or paranoid, whether the story is, did I mess it up? Are they losing feelings? Are they not being honest with me? Are they not being truthful to me? Are they not being faithful to me? There could be these kind of paranoias that are getting in the way of your relationship. There could also just be fears that you are feeling. A lot of times when we think about Aquarius energy, we think of it as very detached. And that can be true in many instances. But to me, what brings to life Aquarius energy is when I remind myself that it's opposing Leo. It's the opposite sign of Leo. And Leo is the heart space. And oppositions are emphasizing of differences energy. So it's not that Aquarius placements don't have a heart. But I think this particular placement could be bringing to the surface how scary it is to care about something, which is why a lot of times Aquarius placements will get a rap for being nonchalant and being very detached. I think they come off that way and that they can be that way because sometimes there could be a fear around that vulnerability or allowing one's heart to lead or allowing one's passion to guide. Love doesn't always make sense. You know, it's an air sign. And regardless, no matter how much we vet someone, no matter how many questions we ask, no matter how well we know somebody, there are no guarantees when it comes to love, when it comes to connection. We do not know how the cookie is going to crumble. They call it falling in love for a reason. It is a risk to a certain degree. And with Venus Pluto, there could be an energy around feeling the weight of that risk around, oh my gosh, I'm, catching feelings or I'm falling in love. This feels so scary because it doesn't make sense. And it takes you out of logic because it's something that cannot be quantified or understood. And it is a risk. Pluto energy makes that clear. And so there can be an energy coming to life around the weekend around trying to play it cool or be nonchalant, but also like kind of freaking out because it's like, oh gosh, I'm chalanting. I'm chalanting quite a bit and that's scary and it makes me want to turn off my emotions or poke my emotions or my affections with a stick and be like, what is that? That's what I've observed in Aquarius energy. So it's not necessarily that they're detached or they're removed from emotion, but a lot of times when it's overwhelming to them, there's like a desire to separate themselves from it in order to try to make sense of it or understand it. But a lot of times these things cannot necessarily be understood. And so with Venus Pluto, there could just be fears that are coming to light within your relationship, even just like fear of the future, fear of where things are evolving, fear of, are we going to evolve together? Are we going to grow apart? Who knows? This is not something that can be figured out by the mind. So it's not a very productive place to go mentally. I think the best way to cope with Venus Pluto is just honoring, falling in love is a risk. Being in this relationship is a risk, but also blocking myself off to love is a risk as well. And it's important to know when I'm talking about love, I'm not just referring to romantic love. Like I think if anything, Aquarius energy is being open to love in all of its formats, that it shows up in all of its nuances. Love is all around and love is risky because we're all not going to be here one day. It's risky to get a pet because we know we have to walk with them when they do pass away. It's risky to make friends because who knows, they could betray us in 2 years' time. We never know. And with this, it's acknowledging that caring is a risk. It's easier to go through life as though you do not care. As though you are nonchalant. To care is a risk, but it's worth it. It's worth it to have things in your life that you care about. It's scary to have things in your life that you care about because when you care about something, it could be taken away, but it's worth it. And where this showed up within the vibe check was this essence around being able to get to the core. That's the energy of Pluto. It wants to get to the core. Let's take away anything superficial. I don't want to hear about your work trip. I don't want to hear about your KPIs. I don't want to hear about any of that. How are you? Like to your core, how are you? Pluto energy can be existential. It can make us wonder, like, what's the point of it all? But especially with Venus Pluto, it can really be illuminating the friendships or the connections within our life in which we're able to go deep with around how are you doing as a human? And, with Venus and Capricorn, there could have been a feeling around gotta achieve and ascend, and that's all well and good. But now with Venus and Aquarius, it's this energy around where does your path differ from that of the conventional path? Around the two of you connecting and being like, yeah, we were told throughout school and throughout our internship that this is what we wanted, and now we're here and we're wondering if we wanted it at all. And it's scary to design a new path, one that's not the prescribed path, because there's so many uncertainties in it. But with Venus and Pluto, it's just making peace, if that's possible with Pluto energy, but it's making peace with the uncertainties, or at least just allowing the risk that is life, that is falling in love, that is finances with the energy of Venus. And so it's just honoring those connections where you're able to go deep. We're able to strip beneath the surface level and the small talk to really get to the core of it. And so this could be a weekend in which you're really honoring those connections that are within your world, in which you feel seen to a deep level. When you're able to have those conversations or those discussions that really stay with you because they really make you think. They really bring you to the core. We also have the Sagittarius Sun opposing Jupiter in Gemini, which, yes, can lead to some excess, some overdoing. We also have Neptune Direct today, so definitely be mindful if you yourself are stuck at an airport, that one glass of rosé could lead to 3 or 4. You know, these are both kind of excessive escapist energies, but it is a great time to go for an adventure, to be open to new learnings, to embrace the student that you are within life school. If you are learning, you are living, right? And with Sun square Saturn, there could be an energy around, I don't want to take a risk because what if I look dumb? With the energy of Sun opposite Jupiter, it's just this energy around every time I learn something new, I step into new sides of myself, and I'm open to that. There can be an energy of dealing with people who are a little bit more egocentric or have delusions of grandeur in some regard. I'm telling you, Saturday energy, kind of Delulu energy is alive, especially since we do not have that much Earth in the cosmos currently. The only planet that's in an Earth sign now is Uranus and Taurus, so we're not too grounded. So I would just say, have fun, have an adventure, get lost in something, but try to keep your feet on the ground as you do, because Neptune stationing direct, it happens at 3:43 p.m. And here's the thing about Neptune direct. It's not the biggest deal in terms of our worlds down here. It's more so of a collective shift. But what I will say is that when an outer planet switches directions, we do feel it intensely. So Saturday could feel coated with this Neptunian shimmer on it. And how will this affect your world? One dimension of Neptune is that it can make us more sensitive, it can make us more weepy, it can make us more tired. So that could be the Neptune energy that you're feeling. We could want to check out from our reality. It could be very escapist. You know, Sun opposite Jupiter is excess, and Neptune energy is escapism, whether that's by way of rosé at the airport, whether that's by way of procrastination, or whether that's by way of withdrawing into our own la la land, like our own internal fantasy world, which, for the record, I do not think is a bad thing to intentionally curate your own inner world, your own interior landscape. Life is harsh and cruel. Saturn energy makes that clear. It's important to have a safe space within your mind that you can withdraw to in order to lick your wounds when things get hard, in order to renew your spirit, in order to get inspired, in order to see the beauty within this experience. It's important to intentionally curate that inner environment. But it's also important to have discipline around it. And I think Mercury squaring Saturn yesterday makes that clear. Sometimes that's disciplined around, these are not thoughts that are productive or healthy, so I'm going to shrink them and flick them away. But it's also around, this is not a line of thought that's grounded in reality. This is not helpful. Because again, we can withdraw into la la land for renewal, for inspiration, but it's important that our la la land does not take away from our real life, right? That we are living too much in fantasy, too much in illusion, that we are not allowing ourselves to see something clearly. So it's also having discipline around when you need to return back to reality. So book a trip to your own la la land, sure, but just make sure you have a round trip flight, right? That it's not just a one way. And so with Neptune direct, you could want to get lost in a museum, you could want to get lost in a movie, in art, in music. You know, Neptune energy is screens, mirrors, cameras, and it takes a gift to be able to see the cinematic parts of life, to see the artistry of life. And Neptune energy asks you to infuse that. And that muscle becomes even more important when things do get hard, to breathe music and magic and mystery into your daily reality. It's important to honor. And Neptune is also how it is that we transcend. So you could also want to take a yoga class. You could want to go to some sort of spiritual service that could be alive within your weekend. So the moon enters Pisces at 1:49 a.m. So Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. So a lot of these Pisces themes walk hand in hand with Neptune themes, in that both Pisces and Neptune are no stranger to a glass of rosé or two at the airport. They're no stranger to happening upon the most perfect oracle deck, the most perfect tarot deck. They're no stranger to romanticizing even the most mundane experiences. Again, it just heightens this desire this weekend to return back into what gives us a sensation of faith. Because sometimes when things are hard, they're annoying, they're heavy, all the Saturn energy, those are the moments that we reach out for spirit the most, because we're challenged. I know I might just be speaking for myself, but I know for me, I would not have found my spiritual path had I not been tested and challenged in the ways that I was. Because when you're on your knees, you have no other option but to open yourself up to God, to spiritual support, and to find the path in order to bring yourself back into meaning and to find and cultivate a sense of faith that serves as a lighthouse during some dark times. Because we have Venus conjoining Pluto today, which can sometimes make us very dialed into the darker underbelly of this human experience, the darker underbelly of technology, AI, if we're going Aquarius with it, the darker underbelly of falling in love with the Venus dimensions, the darker underbelly of money, the darker underbelly of beauty, the darker underbelly of even just like loss and grief and letting go and corruption. Like Pluto energy could just make us have to deal with these shadow sides of this experience that are not pleasant to deal with and can actually be corrosive for the soul to have to continually face that time and time again. It's not saying to stay in delusion and act like that doesn't exist, but it's also knowing that you need to give yourself spiritual sustenance in order to deal. Life is dense. Life is harsh. That's where it gets even more important to stay connected, stay rooted to what gives you a sense of faith, especially when we consider that Mars stationed retrograde yesterday in the sign of the sun, Leo. And with Venus aligning with Pluto, and Pluto's kind of about the underworld of things, it's important to do the things that ignite your own sunshine. And it could feel like, what's the point? It could feel existential. What's the point? What even matters? But you never know where you showing up for your own sunshine, where that could illuminate even just one person outside of yourself, where it could make even just the slightest bit of difference. And even just you showing up, and even if you don't feel like you are changing the world or saving the world, sometimes even just showing up joyfully, or showing up and saying something optimistic to someone, sharing wisdom, sharing information, can be something that illuminates the path for someone else. Even if it's subtle, it can be powerful. And you cannot give what you do not have. You cannot give to others what you are not prioritizing for yourself. So with Mars retrograde in Leo, it's prioritizing your own sunshine. It might feel selfish, but again, it allows you to show up for others, which can, in big ways or small ways, light the way for other people. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it, is an energy that's alive this week. And so if you are feeling burnt out, you're feeling drained, you're feeling what's the point, the Pisces moon weekend with Neptune Direct, it's really asking, what is the point? Let me return back to my soul to ask. And the energy of asking is alive because that evening, the Pisces moon squares Mercury in Sagittarius. This lands right before 10 p.m. And this kind of gives the energy of like questions that really have no answers, like rhetorical questions, like what's the meaning of life? Questions that don't have a definitive answer, but they're still worthy of asking because they send you on a quest, an adventure. What's the meaning of life? I don't know. Let's go find out. You could also just struggle to a practical level on Saturday, articulating how it is that you really feel about things. You know, Pisces moon is in its own inner world. And so there could be an energy around verbalizing something and feeling misunderstood, or verbalizing it and being like, well, it felt different within my head, or I built up a whole story around it. Now that the words come out, it doesn't feel as valid. There just could be a challenging time communicating how you feel about something, or even making a decision. Your head and heart can feel to be at odds. So on Sunday, December 8th, at 7:27 a.m., we have the first quarter moon in Pisces. So this is a callback to last week's Sagittarius new moon. This is the crisis of action lunar phase, which sometimes can nudge us to take a risk, take a chance. Of course, I would look before you leap with Mercury retrograde as well as Mars retrograde, but there can be an energy around contemplating what it means to live in faith. What it means to really follow your intuition, to feel led and guided, not by what makes sense, but what feels right. And stepping into this new confidence and courage because you are living a life that feels right. We've got the sun and moon in Jupiterian signs traditionally. And so there is an ask around, what does it look like to live in faith? To balance dreaming with reality, right? Is really the ask here with the Jupiter-Saturn energy alive, to face what is while also dreaming of what could be. That feels relevant with the Pisces moon aligning with Saturn a little after midnight and then going on to square Jupiter around 6 a.m. So there is a mutable T-square, which sometimes can make us feel a little all over the place. We're definitely in la la land this weekend, and you can feel that you are much more absent-minded. You could walk into rooms and forget why you walked in there, or you went to the store to get one particular thing and that was the thing that you forgot. There are harms to being too much in la la land or in our own fantasy world, certainly. Then that evening, the Pisces moon sextiles Uranus and Taurus, which may be an optimal opportunity to do something new that connects you to your soul space or rejuvenates your energy stores. So my loves, that is our week. The Magic Monday mantra of the week is, I take in all of the lessons, the wisdom, and the opportunities of right here and right now. Here is a lovely place to be. Now is the perfect time. It's important to remember that. Look out for the opportunities of that. And again, it's a muscle because sometimes you're forced to be here. You'd rather be elsewhere. Sometimes there's a travel delay that makes you be right here. Sometimes you wish you could get to the future, or you wish you could be in the past, but you are forced to be in the now. This is the now, this is the here. How are you going to decorate it? How are you going to look around in order to learn all of the lessons and take in all of the wisdom of right here and right now? Wow, you are right here and right now. So if you made it to the end of the forecast, go ahead and drop below the plane emoji. We've been doing a lot of transportation emojis as of late, or utilize the word fly within a sentence to let me know that you made it to the end. My Instagram handle is @HalleyCometAstrology. My TikTok is the same. I would so love to connect with you over there. And until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.